Hi, I'm Marta Benavides. It's time for Socialife. Coming up, is hope on the horizon? We're sitting down with the lead investigator of human vaccine trials already underway. Hear what Dr. Joel Solis says about the study and if this could help bring us closer to a normal way of life. Funding education, healthcare, and infrastructure right here at home. How you can help make that happen by filling out the census. That information is on its way. And our friends at the Patio on Guerra are going to wow our taste buds with this delicious recipe. So don't miss it. Socialife will be right back after this.
McAllen feels different today. National emergency is changing everyday life in a place known for being social and open. But changing how we live doesn't change who we are, a community that makes the most of each day. We're still closely connected, even at a distance, working to make McAllen safer today and stronger tomorrow. Together, we'll look forward to the day when this emergency has passed and new reasons to celebrate begin. Until then, we'll make the most of McAllen.
When you bank with Lone Star National Bank, you're actually investing in your community. You see, our customers have made us one of the largest community banks in Texas, which means we don't ship your money to New York. Instead, we invest in our community. We invest in your future and in thousands of small businesses.
Together,
we do what the little banks can't and the big banks won't. Lone Star National Bank, the Valley's bank.
I just want to let the people viewing this know that during these difficult times here, I want you to know that I'm very proud of the men and women here at the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office who are on the front lines every day. Our deputies are out there putting their badge on and their gun on and going out and continuing to protect our communities. I'm very proud of of not only them, but also the men and women of all our local, state, and federal law enforcement that are doing the same thing. We're fighting a pandemic that is unseen to us. The only way that we can combat this is by you helping us, and that is by continuing to use a face mask, staying 6 feet away from each other, and possibly staying at home if you can. So again, thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing here, Martha, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for those great words, Hidalgo County Sheriff Eddie Guerra. So how do we get closer to that place that we all remember and miss so very much? Can a vaccine bring us closer to that place? Can we achieve that kind of life again? For the answers, we want to go to our special guest and friend, Dr. Joel Solis. He is the lead investigator of human vaccine trials already underway here in the Valley. And we want to thank you so much, Dr. Solis, for taking the time to have this conversation with us.
Welcome, Martha, and thank you very much for having me today.
I want to ask how you and your family are doing first and foremost.
We're doing great. My 2-year-old is absolutely beautiful, and I'm enjoying every minute of fatherhood.
Well, again, we appreciate you taking the time out. I know how busy you are, but this is exciting. This is big news. We're talking about phase 3, Dr. Solis, of a study that you're overseeing. You're the lead investigator. Are you optimistic? Is this the hope that we've all been looking for?
Well, speaking of hope, I hope it is. Listen, we as a community, as a state, as a country, humanity, we've been struggling for quite some time. It's clearly affected every single individual's life in a different capacity. We're in this together. And my colleagues, our friends, have been fighting for months, and it's very, very difficult. So is there hope? I think so. This is preventative medicine. Vaccines are designed to help, to prevent. If some of these vaccines can meet the requirement that the FDA has laid out, then perhaps in our very near future, we will have some protection. And that's what we're all striving for. Every single one of us, clinician or not, we all want the same thing: normalcy, safety. We want to be able to live life the way we did before. So yes, I do hope, absolutely. I hope these trials, whether it be the first or the second or the third or the fourth, I hope one of them or more of them collectively can bring some hope to all of us.
This is already happening. It started this week. Can you tell us a little bit about the study, the one that you're conducting?
I love telling a story, a lot like you do in many respects. But in order to reach or to discuss what's happening today, you have to look back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that'll give you a better grasp on why we are here today. So if you go back to January, for example, that is where the COVID genome was first deciphered. Okay? You fast forward a few months later into March, and that's when the first human clinical trials began. If you move forward, say into May, our government declared Operation Warp Speed. They basically said, listen, whatever it takes, let's get everyone on board and let's get a vaccine ASAP. So shortly after that, that's when FDA declared what we needed. Mm-hmm. That was June. I mean, we're August 4th today. So if you look at the timetable, that's only 2 months removed from that, and pretty much 6 months from when this particular genome was deciphered. That's amazing. But you know what that is? That's people coming together. That's everyone working together, which is the only way we can beat this. So we're here today in a phase 3 because of all of that. And we're not the only ones in phase 3, by the way. When you talk about clinical trials, there's a total of 6 sponsors or vaccine candidates that are in phase 3. And 3 are in China, and the other 3 are not. That would be Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer. So we have 3 amazing pharmaceutical companies, drug companies with great technology and great options for us.
How will you determine its effectiveness on the immune system, Dr. Solis?
That's a great question. So when you think about clinical trials, there's certain phases, and obviously we talked about phase 3. So first and foremost, it's safety. From phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, it is always safety. Mm-hmm. You have to remember that. But once you get to a phase 3 trial, you already have a good idea of the safety. You'll continue to monitor it, absolutely. You have a better understanding of the dosage you believe has initiated that response. And in this case, since we're talking about vaccines, it's what we call immunogenicity. So how did it activate the immune system? And now you want to measure that activity or efficacy, like how's it working?
Sure.
So that is this particular step where you want to be able to get some participants, inoculate some participants, have a placebo to compare against, to limit obviously bias and have validity, et cetera, et cetera. But over time, the design is does it protect you from COVID?
Right.
Pretty simple. And that's what we'd like to see. As FDA stated, at least 50% or more. In addition to that, if you happen to get COVID, and let's say you did get the actual vaccine. Well, the next question is how intense was that particular COVID disease state you were in? How long did it last, et cetera? And another great question everyone's looking at is, how long will I have protection?
Yes.
These are very, very good questions. And there are analysts, there are experts who will be assessing all the data from different countries. They collectively assess, and they will decide whether or not this meets approval.
How often will there be a need for vaccination?
At this point, it's just, with such a novel virus, we're still learning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's an honest answer. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it has to be. I surely don't want to mislead anyone. That's something I'd hate to do, especially in the situation we've been in. We hope, right? That seems to be the common denominator today. The theme is hope.
Yes.
Clearly, we hope that we will have sustained protection. But think about this. If we can open up that window a little bit and we can utilize these vaccines, whomever finishes, and have some protection, science is so amazing that we will discover treatments in due time. We will have even better vaccines later, whether they need a boost or not. So I'm very, very optimistic that we can get there. We can, but it takes a collaborative effort. And in this case, as clinicians, we understand that we are trained to be community driven. We're trained to collaborate with our peers. And there's no better time than now. And we've shown it every single, at least all my friends, we talk about this and we all want the same goal. So I think we'll be okay. It's just going to take some work and concerted effort, prayer, a number of things to get through it, but I think we can.
How many participants are you hoping to recruit, Dr. Solis, and who makes a good candidate for this particular study?
The two studies that we have, right, they're actually looking at 30,000 participants, each one. As far as our responsibility, well, it differs as one of the selected sites, and one will need 500, and then the other will need 1,500. So between the two trials, we're looking at a total of 2,000. And those participants, not we, but the study design is looking for individuals that have some form of risk. So let's define risk very briefly. Risk can be defined as age, or having diabetes, or having a respiratory illness, something, a chronic disease that needs to be managed. But it can also be defined as where you work, such as healthcare workers. That's a risk. So also law enforcement, other entities where there's a large group of people would be considered a risk. So we're trying to address that by selectively reaching out to those groups and then going through the criteria that's necessary to see if they'll be able to participate.
You're a very respected leader in our community, and you have years of training. I know your background in emergency medicine, so being on the front lines is nothing new for you. I also would love to ask what your message of hope is to those watching right now.
I like to look at this pandemic, I guess, or where we are today with a way that I can remember it easily are by my 5 C's. And that would be clinicians, community, collaborating to combat COVID. It helps me stay focused with what I need to do to play my role. And I'm only as good as my colleagues, the participation we have in our community collectively, the patients, participants that want to be involved. So if I can just stay on that course of what I just said, it helps me see where I'm going. And I expect that'll be the course or the road I'll be on for a little while.
This is exciting, and thank you for leading the way and bringing us hope that we're all holding on to. And to that, I would love to toast to the 5 C's. Thank you so much for serving us the way that you do. We wish you and your beautiful family, your daughter and your wife and your family there at VMAC, just all the best. Take care, and many thanks to you. Salud, Dr. Solis.
Thank you very much, Martha.
And when we come back, we're going to tell you how you can make sure we are all counted in the Valley by participating in the U.S. Census. So don't go away.
Heroes work here. Heroes dedicated to our patients, our community, our future. We've always been here when you needed us most. We're here for you now. Safe, trusted, ready. South Texas Health System. Your system, your care.
You've waited long enough. Now let us wait on you at the Santa Fe Steakhouse and Cantina. Experience an enchanting escape where our creative chefs, attentive staff, 600 wine selection, delicious cocktails, and live music, award-winning steak and seafood are all designed for a very special guest. You. Claim your steak at the Santa Fe Steakhouse and Cantina in McAllen.
You count, I count, we all count. And our participation in the U.S. Census determines the kind of funding we receive for healthcare, schools, and roads. So how do we make sure everyone is counted? Well, for the answers, we would like to welcome our special guest, Miss Cathy Lacy. She is the director of the U.S. Census Bureau, overseeing 12 states across our country. We'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us, Miss Lacy.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the collection of data and what that ultimately means for our area, for the Valley, Miss Lacy.
First of all, the actual census is only conducted once every 10 years. So in the year ending in 0, we baseline all statistics for the next 10 years. And that count determines representation, but it also determines how billions of federal dollars are allocated to the states and to local areas. And then finally, the information itself helps on how that money is directed within your local community. So it's critically important to every community.
How are we doing here across the Valley? Are you seeing that people are participating, that they are actually getting involved in filling out the census?
Well, they are. If we look at Hidalgo County, it's about 48.2% self-response. We really want to encourage people to respond now. Now's the time to take action before we're actually walking the streets and knocking on their doors. And we've tried to make it as easy as possible for everyone to respond to this census, whether it is through the paper questionnaire that may have come to their home, the telephone number where they can call and we can complete it over the phone, or they can always go online, 2020census.gov, hit the banner and complete their census questionnaire right then.
Would you be so kind to walk us through the process? I know it's offered in English and Spanish.
Yes. So if they go online, they can actually toggle to English or Spanish. It takes 10 minutes or less. I actually haven't had anyone who said it's taken them 10 minutes because it is just 10 questions. Basically, we just want to know what their household looks like. And it's for every resident in the Rio Grande Valley and across the country, citizens, non-citizens. If you're living here, we want to make sure you get counted.
Well, we have some work to do, as you mentioned, here in Hidalgo County. We want to make sure everyone participates. So please tell us just, I guess, not just the process, but ultimately how this just is going to make sure that you mentioned, represented and that we're funded. Can you break that down for us just to deliver the message to our viewers, just how crucial it is and the deadline that we have to do this, Ms. Lacy?
Well, we ask that people do it now. Our deadline is September the 30th of this year. Okay. So it's really right around the corner. So we want people to take action now. And I tell people, if you think you're not affected by this actual census count, have you driven on one of the local highways? Have you been to a local hospital? Do you send your children to school? Have you had to take advantage of emergency services? All these things is depending on that census data and how it projects those needs and how it also helps the local community allocate those funds. So everyone is affected by this once in a decade count. So again, it's just critical and it is safe. The information that we collect is only released in statistical format. If people wonder, you can go on our website and see what the data looks like. Individuals are never revealed within our census questionnaire. As a regional director, the 12 states, I can't even look at my own census form. So that gives you an idea how truly confidential this information is.
And that's good to know. September 30th is the deadline you mentioned. Now, representatives will actually be going to homes where they've learned that there hasn't been participation. Tell us about that, and are the representatives prepared to help those fill out the census at that point?
Absolutely. So we are scheduled to start our non-response follow-up operation on August the 9th. And what that's going to look like in the local community is we've hired locally. They're going to go to those households. We have not received a response yet. They will have a mask. They will have a handheld device. Probably will have their census bag with them. They're going to knock on the door and back up a little bit to keep that 6-foot distancing to keep everybody safe. And then they're actually going to collect that information on that handheld device right there. If people are not home, we'll leave a notice of visit with their census ID. So if they want to avoid that knock for non-response follow-up, they can just go online or they can call, phone number will be included, and give us that information over the phone.
And Ms. Lacy, I understand that you're not just calling on everyone to fill out the census, but you're also looking to fill some positions right now with the U.S. Census Bureau.
That's absolutely correct. It is not too late to get involved. If you're interested in working for the U.S. Census Bureau for this historic once-in-a-decade count, you can go online and apply for positions at 2020census.gov/jobs. And we do have very competitive pay rates. So the pay rate is between $17 and $19 an hour. So well compensated for the time that you spend, and you're helping your local community.
Thank you again so much for sharing this wealth of information with us and our audience. We appreciate what you do. We hope that everyone responds because it is important. Thank you again, Ms. Lacy.
Thank you.
And coming up, a delicious recipe from our friends at the Patio on Guerra. Don't go away.
We are excited for back to school, and while the world has thrown us a couple of curveballs, we are ready to welcome our students back with the next level excellence you expect from McAllen ISD. Every one of our students will be learning virtually, but what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. Since 2011, every one of our students has been issued a smart device. They will use these devices to connect in real time to their classroom. This is synchronous learning, and it is the closest thing to being in school you can get from the safety of your home. Students will see and hear their teachers, their classmates, and engage with both just as they would in their school buildings.
The first vocabulary word is adorable.
They will have designated class times, assignments, due dates, tests, and celebrations as they learn and master new things. This method truly brings the classroom experience into your home. We can promise this because our teachers have spent the last 10 years learning the tools and technology necessary to make it happen. Be on the lookout for invitations from your campus for our virtual Meet the Teacher nights and parent information meetings. This school year will certainly be like no other in our 112-year history, but our experience and expertise has prepared us well. Technology, innovation, and excellence are our brand, and we stand ready and eager to meet every challenge with the same determination that has earned us 2 consecutive A ratings and countless other distinctions. It is never too late to join our McAllen ISD family. Registration is ongoing and can be completed online or on the phone. Call us at 687-6473. We're ready for you.
So now Chef Joe Morales is going to show us how we make our crab meat tower, which is fantastic. Chef. Just to touch base, white truffle oil can be very strong, very overwhelming, overpowering, like garlic. So you have to be careful with that.
Y listo, aquí tenemos nuestra crab tower.
Oh, that recipe looks amazing. We want to thank our friends at the Patio on Guerra. We also want to thank our special guest, Dr. Joel Solis, Miss Cathy Lacy with the U.S. Census Bureau, Hidalgo County Sheriff Eddie Guerra, Deutsch Deutsch, and you for joining in on the conversation. We leave you now with the art of socializing.